It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. Today's date is August 5th. It is a Tuesday. I mention that because of the fact that we do the show live between 7 and 8 o'clock on 104.5 KSOQ, a.k.a. Westplex Talk. Also streaming it live, but we also do it in the podcast and video podcast version on bsshow.co and also bsshow.us. Okay. I did it again, bjshow.co and bjshow.us. Okay, I checked with producer Christy, and I checked with producer Christy, and I said, Producer Christy, what did we talk about in A Block? And she said,
what would you do with a brain if you had one?
Boy, I tell you what, she's not my fan, is she? I can't remember, John. I
love the fact that, Brad, yesterday I went to your Boomer Facebook page, and I like the fact that in the new entirely accurate and totally realistic photo of you, me, and producer Christy, I like the fact that I now have a bald spot. I like the fact that you look like I did in the previous iterations. I think we swapped bodies. And apparently now I have like almost sandy ginger hair and a bald spot in the back of my head. So that's good.
John, I thought you didn't go to Boomer Facebook.
I go occasionally just to do kind of a wellness check on you to make sure that no former local radio hosts are threatening to punch you in the face. It's an important thing to do if you have geriatrics in your life. Can
I tell you an interesting story? I shouldn't, now that you brought it up. See, I wasn't going to say this, but you brought it up, okay?
Yeah, hey, blame John. Yeah, what did you get in another skirmish with radio host, Brett?
Well, I don't know about a skirmish, but I put up Paul Brown's video with him,
I saw that. That was awesome. And you told him you told him he did a good job.
And somebody took it down.
What do you mean? Like untagged himself from it?
They blocked me for putting up stuff from that page.
You're kidding me.
I am
not.
But
I mean, wasn't that... I see it up on your page now, so it's coming from Paul Brown.
Oh, no.
Are you saying that KBDZ blocked you?
There's a second one. Because over the weekend, when I looked at my Facebook page, there was a message that said on right at the top of it was the last post I put on Friday. So on Saturday morning, I looked at my page, and there's a thing on there that says, this message, this content has been deleted or whatever. You know what I'm talking about, that particular message?
Yeah, I do know. And did it say that it was for a violation, or what did it say?
No, they essentially have blocked me. And what I did was and this is sort of Facebook inside.
Sure, but I'd like to know. Because I don't know much about Facebook. Explain it.
Okay, inside ballpark stuff is you can post something if someone posts something on their Facebook page and you want to put it on your Facebook page, you can do one of two things. You can either share it or you can pull you can copy and paste the link. You know what I'm saying? So in other words...
Yeah, I get it. And then add your own comments. Is that what you could do?
Right. And I copied and pasted the link, and then I was blocked. So,
wow. And it was probably by that other radio station is what you're saying.
See, John, I don't want to beat a dead horse. Maggie, come over here.
Important. I think we haven't talked about it in a while. We should talk about it.
I have said this time and time again. And I use my example of my YouTube channels that I watch. I watch a lot of car content. And you make fun of Cletus McFarland and people like that. But Cletus McFarland, on numerous occasions, invites other YouTubers who are technically his competition because they're in the same space, they're doing similar videos and things like that. He invites them on his videos. He promotes them. Hey, if you haven't subscribed to JH Diesel, you really should. Okay, so he's the perfect example of as the tide rises, so do all boats. I've said this time and time and time again. My competition in the radio industry is not KDHX or KBDZ or KLPW or KFAV or whatever the hell the station is, K-Wolf or stuff like that. My competition is Meta, Alphabet, aka Facebook, YouTube, all these kind of things. That's my competition. And why my fellow radio brethren take it upon the fact that when I say nice things about Tracy and talk about the good things she's doing with her radio stations. I talk about the good things. I still go back to the fact that when KBDZ, started simulcasting on 101.7, which essentially puts them into a good signal in the Westplex, I promoted that and I put their media page on my Facebook page. Hey, look at this. These guys are doing a great job. And what do I get? A nasty text from Kev. Why are you doing this? Why would you do this? I don't understand. I don't get it. To the point where when you and I, it's funny because one of the best of shows we're running right now, you and I talk about KLIS with Dave Green. I have personal experience with that because I tried to buy KFNS, and when I go to the banker, he laughed at me, literally laughed at me, because of the fact that at the time they were selling the transmitter site, and by the way, they threw in the license, and the transmitter site had appraised at $383,000. The purchase price on the entire radio station, including the transmitter site, all the equipment, the license, with $275,000. I think Dave got it for $250,000 for $250,000. Okay, when they went on the air, you and I complimented them. You talked about how it was an offshoot of his other business. What, Sports Hub? What's the other business?
Yeah, Sports Hub STL.
Sports Hub STL, and talked about the fact that they were doing interesting things. You weren't real wild about me when I said that the afternoon show with Kelly and whatever her boyfriend's name.
But that's your technique. But Brad, you're an expert on the way shows sound. I'm not, and you pointed out that on the technical side, it didn't sound very good, but it was literally their first week.
Well, but it's interesting. A couple weeks later, John texted me or we talked on the phone or something like that, and you said, "You know what? I agree with you. The audio does sound bad." Remember?
Well, thanks for sharing that private conversation on the air now, Brad. So let's get back to your broader point, though, Brad.
Well, I don't understand it.
Can I tell you why it happens?
Well, see, here's the thing. Part of the deal is that on this very radio station, we used to do a lot of high school sports. And when I first bought the station, we actually made money doing high school sports. But that slowly through the years has diminished. And the reason that's diminished is because there's less and less advertisers really willing to write a check for high school sports. And part of it has to do with the fact that when you think about it, it is really, let's be honest. This is not Texas high school football where you have 35,000 seat stadiums. Probably the biggest stadium in the St. Louis area as far as the high schools is concerned is probably one of the Parkways. I mean, that area there. I mean, most of your stadiums, your high school football fields maybe hold what? 2,000-3,000 people? Wouldn't that be about right?
Yeah, at most.
Right. Okay. So you have a very limited audience in the fact that most of your high school listeners are going to be moms and dads, parents, aunts and uncles, grandma and grandpas. And at least with moms and dads, chances are they're at the game already. They're not listening on the radio. They're at the game already. And I brought up the fact that there's now national companies that are coming in and essentially doing the video where they're, some of these companies do a really crappy job, but they've got great salespeople, and they go to the boards of education. Hey, we're going to put your high school football game on national TV. And these people go, oh my God, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that great? But yet the Jane Pushkar will say, well, I have to hire a consultant first to make sure that there's no inappropriate things that happen in a high school football game. John, did you catch my little drift there, right? How'd you like that? I
did, yeah. I'm waiting for you to get back to the so let's get off the high school thing for a minute. And let's get back to, I asked you, do you know why that happens? And you didn't solicit the answer from me, so I'll tell you. The reason why it happens, Brad, is because you are an honest broker and you are doing things in a kind, magnanimous way. And if you were on a hobo train, riding a train they called the City of New Orleans, and you were riding through the country and there were other hobos on there, people would assume that you were trying to steal whatever was in their backpack. So if you offered them a can of pork and beans, they would assume you had an ulterior motive. The radio industry appears to be a bunch of hobos riding on the train they call the City of New Orleans. And you do something magnanimous, which is, hey, welcome to the Westplex 101.7. And someone automatically assumes that you are trying to steal their traffic or steal their advertisers, or you're up to no good. That is the price you pay, Brad, for being a magnanimous, well-meaning person.
And John, thank you very much. Rarely do you ever compliment me. I'll take that as a very big compliment.
No, because you don't accept compliments. But thank you for finally accepting a compliment.
Well, but more than that, This is my industry. This is year number, what is this? Year number 53 for me. I mean, as a matter of fact, I forgot about this. I think yesterday or today might have been my anniversary where I walked into the studio at WSIE, the very first, and I started working at WSIE, which at the time was an NPR affiliate, which is sort of interesting. I think today is the day. It's either yesterday or today.
So let's get to it. 53 years.
So the point being is, my industry is under attack. I still love this industry. Radio is still very important. The Nielsen numbers are still very strong. Radio is still the number one match, or the number one mass reach medium.
92%, Brad, that's the number.
Right. We reach more people, on a weekly basis than obviously the newspapers do, because the newspapers are, in terrible shape. But television. I mean, remember we talked about this, I think last week, where Mark Cox talked about the ratings, that when he was on Channel 4 back in the 90s, that wasn't unusual for the Channel 4 10 o'clock newscast to pull like a 15 or a 16 rating. Now there's like 1 and 2, which means essentially, if you look at that, numbers wise, their viewership is decreased by what, a factor of 15?
Some ridiculous percentage.
Yeah. So
I think that a radio station blocking you on Facebook, I think it's easier than them thinking that they should try to engage with you and find out what your deal is. I think it's just easier for them to block, assume you're a negative Nelly, and just move on.
Well, and the thing is, I don't know why this is. Randy Rayleigh's Facebook page keeps popping up on my newsfeed. And, it's to the point where I have my issues with trying to stay positive. There's crap going on in my life that you don't even know about, other things going on, that there are times people that know me really well, every once in a while will say, I don't know how you do it. On a daily basis, I don't know how you do it. And I've got some health issues, which, when you get to be 90 years old, 1 foot in the grave, one foot in the banana peel, you know what I mean? Every day could be my last. But I still will have a passion for this industry, and I don't understand the fact that everybody has to be, this is my, but what's interesting about this is, I remember hearing this guy, it might have been an NPR years ago, and the guy essentially says, human nature is all conflicts are territorial. And he said it in a very concise phrase. I thought to myself, and then he talked about wars and things like that. And look what just happened with Laos and Cambodia, if you know what's going on with that. I mean, everybody's talking about the Russia-Ukraine thing. You know about the Laos and Cambodia deal?
No, I've paid no attention to it.
They're killing each other on the border because it's
it has to do, let's go back to your point though, Brad. It goes back to territory.
Exactly.
And your point is that radio people are territorial when they don't need to be.
Right, but think about it in your neighborhood, okay? In my old neighborhood, I still have a friend that lives there in my old neighborhood. In my old neighborhood, and I talked to this friend recently, and they told me this story of my old next door neighbor, who now has appointed herself to go around and do two things. A, she knocks on doors and tells people that, they should come to her church, that her church is a really nice church. And B, then she critiques their lawn care.
That's kind of her. What a giving woman.
Right.
Is she a member? She tried to create a homeowners association.
And then she critiques the fact that they need to go pull those weeds. Oh, see, when this was told to me, I said to myself, I didn't say to myself, I said the person told me, I said, okay, why doesn't she go pull the weeds and just do it as a nice gesture instead of
as a service? Yeah.
Right, instead of knocking on their door and beating them up about weeds in their yard, go over to their house and pull the damn weeds. I've told you this story before, John. I've cut people's grass on many occasions. And one of the most popular categories, and this is sort of interesting because I've watched some of these most popular categories on YouTube are these guys that run lawn care services, and they in the course of them out, cutting grass at various locations, they go by a place that the grass has grown up at 2 feet, you can't see the windows of the house anymore, and it usually turns out it's an elderly person that, used to cut the grass themselves, and they're on Social Security and they can't, pay somebody to do it. And these guys do it themselves for free. Trim the trees, trim the sidewalks. There's a couple of them where the sidewalks, you can't even see the sidewalks anymore. The grass has grown over the top of the sidewalks. And on a couple occasions, guess what happens to them, John?
They get in trouble because somebody will call the police and say, why are they doing this?
Yes, exactly. In one of the cases, and I've tried to verify this, and I think it is the case. The cops show up and tell this guy he has to stop because he's interfering with city business because of the fact the city is currently taking them to court, the owners of the property, for neglecting their maintenance on their facility.
Oh, so he's actually interfering in the court proceedings against the residents.
Yes, but the crazy part of that is, think about that for a minute. The city's getting involved because of the fact that the lawn doesn't look good. So you would think the city would say to the guy, dude, thanks so much. We were having to sue these people, but you know what? We're going to drop that lawsuit because of the fact that you came in and you cleaned up the lawn, and those people, even though they're elderly, and we shouldn't be taking them to court anyway, thanks so much. But instead, they try to arrest the guy. I'm going like, okay.
It's like the Hildebrand Facebook model. No good deed goes unpunished. Now, the good thing, let's get back to the main part of the story in the last minute, Brad. Paul Brown is still your friend, or at least a good acquaintance of yours, and Paul knows and values what you do for him, and that's the relationship that matters. And if other people reject the fact that you're doing something kind for them, that's their decision to reject your kindness.
But the relationship is, he told me that in order for us to continue doing and me helping and promote it, he has to run it by Kev Russell. And I'm going like, okay, here we go. And by the way,
well, in that case, Brad, then you don't need to run that promotion for him. You can just repost what Paul posts on his own page, right?
John, you know what?
Don't let the bad guys win, Brad. I mean, find a way to make it work for you. You're still friends with Paul. You can still promote what he does.
And Paul's doing a service. I don't know, he can't be making a lot of money doing this. And what's interesting was the one I posted yesterday, he does these really good interviews because Paul is an ex-TV news guy.
Yeah, and he had the coach up there in that.
Right, he has the coach up there. He does a nice job with these things. I think he's, and not only that, John, I'm going to say something you're going to roll your eyes at. Maybe you won't. Paul, even though he's in advanced years, he's much younger than me. I think he's in his 60s now. But Paul's is still a good-looking dude. Most of the guys in radio, they have to turn sideways to get through the door frame. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, or they have to use an AI image to show them, John, and producer Christy. I love the fact that you have AI thirst traps, Brad.
I have what?
Because a lot of men look at that and say, how did Brad get that producer on his show?
It wasn't easy, let me tell you. John, say goodbye.
See you tomorrow, Brad.